Hello there, Middle Earth fans. I hope you guys are doing well. So, this past week I put a video out talking about my event I ran on the 4th of March, the Great Battle of Carolinas version 3.0. It was the third annual 1,000 point event that I ran, and we had a lot of great armies show up. So, I went ahead and I did a review of the event from my perspective, as I said, and then I also did it from players' perspective, which you can find on the LTR SPG team, and I'll leave links to both of those videos below. So please go check them out and give us feedback on what you thought. So I wanted to take a moment, and while I'm not somebody who puts out players' lists, there seems to be this want for people to put the players' lists up, and I don't do that. I find that counterintuitive to the game. So this isn't 40K, and I keep saying this because I keep seeing more and more shit that has to do with 40K in Middle Earth strategy battle game. Part of the strategy is figuring out maybe what your opponent's going to play ahead of an event. Well, how do you do that? Go network. And I don't mean the network of putting a comment on someone posting about their event saying, what did they bring? What did these people bring? No, I'm talking about actually go out there, go to the event, talk to the people, play against them, go and see them, and find out if they have socials. It seems like everybody and their mother either has a YouTube channel, I'm looking at myself on this one, or a TikTok, or even though I don't use that shit either, or some sort of social media platform where they talk about the game and their armies and stuff. So go out there and find it. You can find most players, at least the well-known ones out there somewhere. There's a number of them that I follow on Instagram who show their conversions in painting. Tater the Painter. If you never heard of him, well, guess what? He's from the Tennessee group. I'm not going to tell you who he is, but go check out his work. So this little video, I'm looking at, as the title said, my 3 favorite and my 3 least favorite armies at the event. Now, this isn't to say they are the 3 most competitive and 3 least competitive. I'm talking about if I went to an event, these would be either 3 armies that I would really like to play or 3 armies that I'm not really a fan of. Yeah, and I'm not even gonna say, and I'm not saying that as in like I don't like them at all. It's just that there's something about them that I'd probably play them just to try them out because it's always good to play with an army if you get a chance so you can learn its strengths and weaknesses. But I'm saying that as in I wouldn't really want to play them. Now that being said, there are a lot of armies at this event that I have played before, so I tried to take a look at armies that I haven't used and that I would be interested in potentially using at an event just for, shits and giggles. So I'm going to go ahead and start this outside of the 3.5 minute opening by giving you guys a quick rundown of some of the lists. And again, I'm not giving you a model by model count. And even when I do this review, I'm not going to give a model by model count. It's going to be a broad overview. And I'm going to touch on some of the key parts. Because if I talk about any of these armies, there's obviously going to be some key parts that are going to be included in every one of these armies. So we had 11 good and 7 evil armies. We had an Airborne Reclaimed. We had a couple Grand Army of the South. We had my own army, which was a Rohan Fiefdoms combo. Oh, not the Rohan Fiefdoms, sorry. Rohan Minas Tirith combo. 3 different Rivendell armies. A Mordor army. A Barad-dûr army. Two straight up Minas Tirith armies. One of them was actually Minas Tirith with some Fiefdoms allied in. Riders of Théoden Legendary Legion. The new Rangers Mirkwood Legendary Legion. I had a Fiefdoms army, a Goblin Town allied with Moria army, that was cool, and then a Monster Mash Moria army and an Isengard army. So that pretty much covers everyone. So I'm going to go ahead and start this, and I'm going to start with least favorite, like my 3rd least favorite, my 3rd, favorite one, and then move up from there. So starting out with my 3rd least favorite army, and I'm gonna have to give it to and this is hard because none of these armies are bad again, but this is something I probably wouldn't want to play, and it's a Rivendell army, And while I liked the Rivendell army, it at 1,000 points, it felt to me like it was lacking something. So it had the typical stuff that you would see. It had Elrond. It had Lindir, because if you're gonna have 1,000 points, you might as well put Lindir in there to support him. It had Círdan and it had Erestor. So it was actually a very large model count, near 50 for the army. But I feel like at 1,000 points, you really should try and get another big hero in. So Erestor is a good hero. He just lacks some killing power. His Noldorian daggers are amazing. Those, I think it's reroll a failed wound or reroll ones. I can't remember. I think it's failed wounds. So he's always been a favorite of mine, even going back to last edition when he only had 1 point of might. Now that he's been buffed to 2 points of might, he's even better. But I don't think that should be like your number 2 hero. I feel like at 1,000 points, yeah, Elrond's great. Well, let's throw the twins in there. Let's throw his sons in. Let's throw in Glorfindel. Let's have a second big hero in there that can do some damage and do a really good job of helping out Elrond, because Elrond's going to be your leader. He's a hero of valor, hero of legend. If you're not going with Gil-galad, then you're going with Elrond. So it wasn't, in my opinion, hero optimized. Troop optimizing, like I said, they had almost 50 models. That's unheard of for high elves. It was a decent hitting power. It did have some decent hitting power with some knights and stuff and some bows, but Círdan is more of a support. Lindir is a support. Erestor is that mid-tier hero. So I felt like at 1,000 points you really need another big hero, and that's the thing, is I saw that in a lot of armies. Most armies had at least 2 big heroes. So that was my number 3 least favorite. And again, I'm not saying it's a bad army. I'm just saying that build for me would not be what I would look to try to take at 1,000 points. So my number 3 favorite army, and this might come as a surprise after I just talked about this, and this isn't a fully optimized list in my opinion either, but it's actually, all right, you ready for this? Another Rivendell list. I know, right? I know. But this one had, where I said before that with the other one, it had too few heroes. This one had too many, I think. So it had Elrond, Glorfindel, Arwen, Círdan, Gildor, and Treebeard allied in. So 6 heroes. You have 3, let's just say 3 ass kickers between Elrond, Glorfindel, and Treebeard. You've got 3 ass kickers, and I actually thought it was cool. He used Treebeard as his leader, and I thought that was actually a smart play because it kind of lets you be a little more, loose with Elrond and Glorfindel, because Elrond, you're not gonna. He's a hero of legend. You're not gonna have to worry about him dying if Treebeard's your leader. And Treebeard's a giant tree with like defense 8 or something ridiculous. He's very hard to crack, and he's a monster too, so he can hurl you around. So even trying to go take him down is not going to be easy. So I think it had 1 hero too many. I like the idea of having Gildor. Gildor is not a hero that you see much anymore, which is too bad because he's a cool model, and being able to bring Noldorian exiles is really cool, and giving him throwing daggers is also something that he did, which I also think is cool. Like strength 3 throwing daggers on the charge, or just in general, is really awesome. Like I had them when I played Corsairs, and they can do some work. I'll be honest. So I like this list just because of the fact that I feel like if I played it with the way I play, I'm an upfront, in-your-face kind of guy. I'd have all those heroes right there fighting you on the line, trying to bash you and throw you around with a big tree, trying to, enchanted blades on my leader, on Elrond and Glorfindel, heroes of the West going like crazy. Just I feel like it would be really fun to play with those. Of course, the big weakness is it was an extremely low model count army. I think it was the second lowest model count army, and the only one that was below it was a Monster Mash army. So that's my number 3 favorite army. So moving on to my number 2 least favorite army, it was the Goblin Town Moria combo. And I feel bad because I know my friend is gonna watch this. I'm sorry, Richie, but in my opinion, if you're gonna try and go the Hordy Goblin army at 1,000 points, his model count was south of 100 at 1,000 points, and he had a good amount of heroes in there. Um, he had the Watcher in the Water with the Goblin King, and then a bunch of Goblin captains, Grinna, and the Scribe. So I like that idea. I just feel like it's not really fully, what's the word, utilized, maximized. Yeah, it's not maximized. Like, I like the Watch in the Water, especially because having watched Richie play it and playing against him a couple times with it, it's a great piece that can really do some work for you. Um, you can kind of call it a double whammy though, because if you have the Goblin Scribe popping goblins up all over the place, do you really need another model that pops up all over the place? So it's kind of like the same trick done twice. And while I do think that the Watcher definitely does it better because he's a better model, far and above a better model than any goblins that can come on, it's like I don't know. I like it. I like little tricks and stuff, but I feel like maybe it's too many. I think maybe, in my opinion, at 1,000 points, a more fully utilized army for this would have been taking the three trolls and then taking as much Goblin Town as possible. Because the three trolls, while he would lose a lot, because he also had some Bat Swarms and Durbers and a Shadow Shaman. And I like the Shadow Shaman, especially since I played against it and it did some damage to me. It killed my Aragorn sword, which sucks. But I feel like you could get a lot more killing power with that list by taking the three trolls and also taking the Goblin King. And while none of the trolls are heroes of legend, which means the Goblin King still has to be your leader because he is a hero of legend, you can do a little less with the Goblin King, if that makes sense. The Goblin King is a very hardy piece, especially with his fat save roll, but at the end of the day, he's still defense 5. And any magic or elven weapons, and there were 5 elven armies, plus 2 Aragorns running around, plus several casters. So I'm thinking there's 1, 2, there's Mordor. So 5 plus 7. I think there was like 10 of the 18 armies there. Could have potentially ignored the fat save by the Goblin King if they used their, elven weapons, magical powers against him. So, not saying that's going to be the case in every game, but if you had the three trolls, you could easily have them as your front line, and they take up a large space, so they can, they can get charged easily and charged a lot, but they can definitely lock down an alleyway or something. And then they are monsters, and they each have some pretty awesome special abilities, especially the one that can sneeze on you and half your fight value, and there's absolutely no way to stop it. And they can hurl you around, they can rend you, they can do stuff to you, and do it 3 times, 3 times the amount than just the Goblin King. So, I like Richie's list. I would play it, but I would definitely make a big change to it, which is to completely drop the Moria compliment that he took and throw in the three trolls. And so that's why it's my second least favorite. And honestly, I think the third and the second, they're kind of interchangeable. Like, I could play both of them with some changes, obviously, which I talked about. I mean, I even made changes from a number 3 list. But so moving on, my number 2 list that was my favorite that I'd like to play was actually Bard Dur. And that was played by Ashley, who is Josh's wife and friends with Richie and, of course, myself. And she had Sauron, naturally, and a couple of troll chieftains, the troll captains. I think they're chieftains. I can't remember right now. I'm kind of tired. I'm sorry. Yeah, they're Mordor troll chieftains. So that was her only 3 heroes. But those are some scary heroes, okay? I don't know about you guys, but if I sit down at a table and I see a troll chieftain and another troll chieftain, I'm sitting there thinking, okay, am I playing Black Gates Opens? And then you pull out Sauron, and I'm just like, ah ha ha! You're bringing on Maiar against me. I see how this is. Roger that. And I've played against Sauron before. I was able to beat him. But it took a lot to do it. So I know how tough it is to play against Sauron. And Ashley's still learning the game. But I feel like in like a 3 to 6 month time range, when she starts getting better at the game, like, no offense, Ashley, you're good now, but you're going to get better, and we both know you are. But when she gets better at the game, and she continues playing with Sauron, y'all better watch out. She's not going to be playing for some wooden spoons anymore. Which I know she loves, and I know she loves getting it, but it's a tough army. Now, she didn't really play with it fully optimized. It was mostly just orcs and stuff after that, because she is still learning the game. I think she just has fun throwing around Sauron and the Troll Chieftains. And then the Orc Warriors and stuff are just filler. So I would have probably changed up her troop type. But unlike the other list where I wanted to look at changing around the heroes, for 1,000 points, I feel like that Sauron and a couple Troll Chieftains, you don't get much better than that, okay? Maybe sneak Shelob in place of one, but Shelob's an individual, so I think Sauron can lead 24 with the army bonus for Barad-dûr. So maybe, with a more optimized troop choice of mine, like including Black Numenorians and Morgul Knights and stuff, maybe those points end up balancing out where Shelob is a great add as an individual or independent hero, because, I'm going to maximize my 24 plus 12 and be able to get my 36 troops in with the other two heroes. Or not. You could always throw an Orc Shaman in there too, or a Taskmaster, or a Drummer. A Drummer's an individual, but thinking about having a Drummer in that list, and that might be something that I would do even if I took, the two chieftains. That way you don't have to use the chieftains for March. I don't even know if the chieftains can use March, to be completely honest with you. They can't. I just looked. They can't do March. So, yeah, having a Drummer would help you for mobility scenarios where you need to try and get your heroes around the board quickly. Because as good as those three heroes are, they still only move 6 inches. So like a 12-inch deployment would really hurt. So that would be my number 2 favorite army to play. And I think that would be a legitimate order for that too. So moving on, my final evil army that I was least favorite. And I'm actually going to cheat here. I'm going to pick 2. And those are both of the Grand Army of the South armies. Now, there's nothing against people who play them. They're a very competitive list, and the people who play them seem to be very competitive people, which is kind of why I have a sour taste, because the people who play them do not make the games the most fun. Which, again, this game is for fun. So, if you want to come in and just try and ass-kick people, go to 40K. That's where that shit belongs. But both of the armies, I like an army that has a gimmick to it. I mean, I've played Rangers of Ithilien. The gimmick for that is ass-loaded bows. The weakness to that is it's only bows. Once you get in combat, you're screwed because you're defense 4, and you have no ability to kill anything that's higher than defense 6. Or defense 6 or higher. So, it's got a gimmick. Grand Army of the South has a gimmick, and that's the Moonmock's impact hits. If that was the only thing these people took, it wouldn't be a big deal. The problem is they also take, and both armies were built different but similar in the fact that they took camel riders as well to get even more impact hits. It's like, alright, dude, 4 fucking impact hits from a Moonmock's enough. I don't need to try and have to worry about your damn camels charging in on me too. So, I know there's camel armies out there right now, and they're becoming a big thing. But they're camel armies. Most of the ones I see are camels. There's no elephant included. So at 1,000 points, it makes sense to see both of them in there because you have the points now to do that. Whereas I think at like 700 points, 800 points in that area, which is pretty common, you even go 6 to 8. You can't really take both and get efficient amounts of them because, you know, the Moonwalk itself is expensive, and then you got to start putting the guys in it. So you could talk about like 600-point army being a Moonwalk and the guys that are in it. So at 1,000, I can't fault them for then allying in, or not. I'm sorry, not allying, but taking more of the models that have that big gimmick. To me, though, it's just too much of the gimmick. It's kind of like what I was saying with the whole Watcher in the Water and the Scribe. It's okay, you got this I can pop up anywhere thing, but now you've got two of these I can pop up anywhere things. It's the same with this ice. I got guys that can run you over without ever getting into combat, but I've got more guys that can run you over without even getting into combat. It takes some of the strategy out of it. Now, it just does take strategy to play the Moonwalk. I will say that. And the times I've beaten it, it's because of the fact that I've out-strategized it. You walk a Moonwalk into a choke point, that Moonwalk's not getting the fuck out. Despite what people think about maybe it can moonwalk. No, it's a war beast. It can only pivot. So if you can't pivot and turn around, oh well, you just walked your beast into a choke point and you're not getting the hell out. Sorry. But those are armies where I would play them, and I'd probably do good with them because, again, the strategy part, my track record shows that I'm pretty good at that. But at the same time, I'd feel dirty playing them. Because it'd be like, yeah, I'm not really even fighting you. I'm kind of just running you over. Like, it's like a coward's cotillion. So, definitely, I got a tie there for my top unfavorite army. Because they were both built similarly. So, lastly, I have my favorite army that I would like to play. And this was an Erebor Reclaimed army. And I really liked this army because it was sort of what you would expect to see with 1,000 points of Erebor Reclaimed. It had Thorn, naturally. It had Dwalin. It had Bifur. And it had Dane. So you've got three really good heroes there that all have 3 attack. And Thorn and Dane were both mounted. I'm sorry, so was Dwalin. Dwalin was mounted. So you had all guys were mounted. 2 War Goats and a Boar for Dane. And then you have Bifur. And people are like, well, why do you take Bifur? Well, Bifur's got the axe in his head. If you remember, he's the one who only speaks in Khazad-dûl in The Hobbit. Until in the extended edition of the Battle of 5 Armies, his axe gets removed. And then he speaks normally, which is pretty awesome. And so he has a special ability, and that is that if he wins a combat against a model, he can do a headbutt against one model. So, even if you're against, like, multiple models, you can do this no matter what. If you win the combat, you choose to do one strike against the enemy model. If you are successful in wounding, and it just says successful in wounding, then the axe head is removed. And from there on out, he gets to call a free heroic movement every turn. So that's really good. That means that Dane, who is already attempting to master battle stuff, can save might, potentially, and not have to call a master of battle. Or you can get a freebie plus a master of battle in a counter of your opponent, which means that if you have your guys spread out enough or in certain, lined up in certain ways, you could potentially get a move off even if you have to use a point of might by mastering a battle an enemy, just because of the fact that you are now forcing your opponent to decide how to allocate your resources from Bifur getting a free heroic move every turn. Now, it's kind of a gimmicky thing, where you have to get into combat and you have to get a wound. So you're going to try and do that early, which means you're probably going to try and set him up against something that he can easily wound. Fully expect that. If you've never played against it, you probably don't expect it until it happens. If if your opponent doesn't tell you, which there's no reason he has to. It's just proper etiquette too. But even then, what can you do? He's going to get into combat. There's only so much you can do. But then you still got the 3 really good heroes. It's a pretty optimized list as far as it goes with what you would expect with Iron Hills Warriors. It's got some crossbows for good heavy dwarf shooting. It's got some goat riders for some knockdowns. It's got banners. It's got multiple banners. Let me tell you that. So for like To the Death or Heirlooms Age is Past, which, you know, Heirlooms isn't a popular scenario, but To the Death is, and having a banner for that, and especially when you have multiple banners, that could really help you if you lose one. I don't know if I would take two, because he had a good amount of models, and I could swap a banner out for two more models. Is it worth it though? I'm not sure. And Thorn, I think Thorn X is a banner also. So I guess having the one banner with him means that he gets a banner, because I think he's a banner to his friendly models. I'm not 100%. I haven't played with Thorn, Oakenshield, Kingdom of the Mountain. I've only ever read his profile. It's not like I've read it recently. So it's a very optimized dwarf list, 4,000 points. It's got some hard hitting, and I feel like it could do really good. Especially because I've played dwarfs before, so I kind of know their weaknesses, so I know what to kind of try to do to mitigate them, or at least do the best I can to mitigate them. But those are my three least favorite and most favorite armies from the event. I'm sorry I don't have a lot of pictures for this video. I do have some courtesy of Chris, who did his own review of the event, and I'm going to leave a link to that video below, as well as a link to his YouTube channel. He's new, so please check him out. And then, of course, I will have the links to my video, like I said, for the TO's perspective, as well as the links from Dan, Joe, and I talking about it from a player's perspective. But until next time, thank you for watching. Please like, share, subscribe. Let me know if there's an army you'd like to see reviewed, and enjoy your Middle-earth hobby.